Alright everyone, welcome to the Eternitium tier list. So I'm going to be skipping explaining how to play the game. I'm going to assume you already know how to play and just go into strategy and the tier list. Now I'm ranked pretty high on BGA, top 10 I think, so I think I know a little bit about it. And as a game designer, there's a couple of game design theory elements which do apply as well. But let's jump straight into it. So, Eternitium is a deck builder. As a deck builder, thinning out your deck and making the proportions of your deck as high with good cards as possible is one of the most important things you can do. Now it's got a very interesting mechanic where you pick up a regular portal card every single portal card every single turn, along with an upgrade card. That means your deck isn't actually getting thinner. It is increasing proportionally with one shitty card and one good card every single turn. So just over time, your deck isn't actually getting better, really. It's just changing the proportions of what ability cards you have in it. Technically it's getting a bit better because some of these cards are better than the ones you start with, and not by much basically. So we're going to jump straight to the S tier because it's just too obvious. There's just nothing about it. The first absolute S tier card is the camera. This card's ability is when you use it, you pick a number of cards in your hand and you either discard or destroy them and then draw that many cards. Now, this is literally the only card in the game which lets you destroy your other cards in your hand. Destroy means like remove them from your deck permanently. There's one more in the expansion here that does it, but it does it proportionally. It can only do once per turn, so it can't actually thin out your deck to below it can't get rid of the shitty cards you start with, basically. So this card is compulsory. If you get it, if you see it and you don't have it, you have to get it. If your opponent gets it and you don't, you just lose. And this is probably one of the biggest flaws of this game, is that this card is just completely broken. You just have to have this in your deck or you basically just lose. Now, the second S tier. Actually, no, we'll leave the second S tier for now, because this one is just clearly obvious. But now, other than that, theory on so a little bit of theory on how good your cards are. So your normal shitty cards, the way you basically should be thinking about the value of a card is how far does it progress you? Now, one progress is getting one of your portal cards from your portal deck removed. That is what I would call one progress. So one example, this card right here, this just destroys one, it just removes one of my portal cards, no matter what it is. So this will progress me one. A second example is this card over here. This card flips over a card, and then I can destroy it with either one of these or one of the shitty cards. This is what I would call half a progress. So to progress once fully, I have to flip it over and then discard it. And that would be one progress. So this progresses once, which is a flip over and discard, while this progresses half, which flips over. So this is basically exactly worth two of these ones, or double the scout. Now, with that in mind, let's have a look and start ranking these cards. So, this one. How much does this progress? So what this does is it flips the top of your deck with the top of your opponent's deck. Now, ideally, you want to use this card when your opponent has one portal flipped up and you have one of your portals flipped down. And so what that does is it progresses back your opponent a half, and it progresses you up a half. So this is actually, in the correct situation, can progress you one progress. As a basic technology card, that is really good. So this goes in A tier. Now, the downside to this is that your opponent has to have a flipped up portal card, which they almost always do. And I'm going to be ranking these for the 2-player game, because that's what I play mostly. With more than 2 players, this, the first half progress reduction is actually reduced proportionally to the number of players. So if we've got 4 players, it'll progress you a half, but it'll only deprogress all the players in total 0.125. So basically a quarter of a half. Oh no, sorry, it would be a third of a half, so it would be like 0.1, it doesn't matter, it's a third of the half basically. So the point is that the more players there are, disadvantaging one player is proportionally worse. But I'm going to assume it's 2 players, and in that case, it is basically a progress of 1. So for a standard, it's A tier. It's pretty good, even though it's situational, so it doesn't always work. Now the scout, this is a flat half progress. So I'm going to be probably that one is going down to C tier. So all the half progresses will probably just be going down in here. They just don't really do much. They're just better cards. All right, next, the draw 2. Now this draw 2, let's assume all our cards in our deck are equal. What does this card do? When you play it, you're getting 2 more. Your one card is multiplying to 2. So assuming all our cards in our deck are a progress of 1, this is basically a 2 progress, a +2 progress. You play this and you get 2 progress. Now, another way to kind of, even if all the average progress in your deck is lower, so let's say the average progress in your deck is half, and you're playing this, you would say so that still increases your progress. This card is still worth 1 progress. Now, your basic shitty portals are effectively, in most situations, a progress of a half as well, because most of them can remove. In practice, it's a bit less than that. If we assume it's a progress of a half, in the worst case situation, this card is still worth a progress of 1. And in the best case situation, or not the best case, in the average case, if you get something like the camera, this is a card as a progress of 2. This card's completely broken. And not only that, it can also be used 3 times in 1 turn. So if you can draw this again, it just gives you another progress of 2. And if you can draw it, so this effectively can be a progress of like 6 in 1 turn if you have the correct other cards in your deck. This is S tier. This is also, if you get these 2 cards before your opponent, you just win. And this is another kind of thing that's wrong with this game. This should be a limit of once per turn, not 3 times per turn. This has to be limited to once per turn, and it would still be S tier. Even if this was once per turn, it would still be an S tier card. So completely broken, S tier, you have to get these 2, and you just win. All right, next, the discount. Now, this card means you can buy your upgrades with 1 less portal card. Now, this seems really good because this seems like an engine, right? It's giving you like a permanent discount, which is like an engine card, so it feels correct, right? But in reality, it's not a play once and you get the discount forever. You have to play it from your hand every single time. So effectively, what this is doing is it's the same as every turn you're discarding a revealed card. That's what this is. And that is effectively a 0.5 progress, a half progress. It's basically exactly the same as the scout. So it's basically like every turn you're removing a half. You're removing 0.5 progress. So you're removing a revealed card. Basically, that's the equivalent to it. So this goes down in C tier. It's just a 0.5 progress. Not really that good. Doesn't really do all much. All right, next one. This one. Now this card is very interesting. You discard 2 other cards from your hand and use this card, and you progress by 1. So this is a 3 cards for 1 progress. that means it makes, basically what this does is it makes 3 of your cards be a 0.3333, so a third progress. It makes 3 of your cards a third progress. That's pretty shit. But it's saved from D tier because it is very flexible. Practically, you will have cards left in your hand, so very often it's using cards that you can't use anyway, so it practically becomes a 0.5 or even a 1 progress sometimes. But it's not really as good as the gun because it can't be 1, and in a really good deck where you've got your camera and you've got the draw 2, it doesn't really do all that much. So I'm going to put it in C tier, but it's going to be high C. So it can be quite good, and it can kind of win you games because it's just a reliable, gets you where it needs to go, but it's not, most of the time, it's not really good progress. All right, this guy. Now, this guy flips over 3 of your portals and then 1 of your opponents. Now, so what that does is technically, if a flip is half a progress, it's progressing you 1.5, and then it progresses your opponent, or it's actually every opponent, 0.5. So its net progress is 1. So it's a net progress of 1. However, practically, because you're always buying cards pretty much, this practically isn't ever a 1.5 progress for you. Very often it is less. It's like a 1 progress or something like that. And since it progresses your opponents by 1, no matter how many they have flipped, it's always going to be, practically it always ends up being a progress of 0.5. Because it progresses you 1 in total, so like flipping over 2 cards, so it's a total of 1, and it progresses all your opponents 0.5. Because it's all your opponents, it makes no difference if it's 2 players or if it's more players. So the progress happening to your opponent is a 0.5 on average. So it's basically negatively progressing you 0.5. So yeah, so this is practically in most cases a progress of 0.5. In my opinion, this card should not have any downside. It should be just a flip over the top 3 cards of your deck. Then it would be in B tier, and it would be really cool to make. You could actually design a deck around this with other removers, flipped over removers. But it is C tier. It's pretty shit for advanced technology. All right, next, multi-portal. This is a flat progress of 1 every situation, no matter what. A tier. This is your basically second best card, actually high A tier. If you basically get camera, draw 2, and multi-portal, you just win the game. You remove everything except draw 2 and multi-portal and whatever other cards you have to buy, and you're literally just redrawing this every single turn. All your cards are basically this, and you're getting a plus 3 cards in your hand every single turn because of the draw 3, being able to use 3 times. This, we can already skip all the rest of the cards. These 3 is your win condition, and it's just the best combo in the game. So yeah, that's basically it. That's it, we're done. This is how you play Eternitum. Just get those 3 and you just win the game. But no, okay, so if, say, for whatever reason you can't get these 3, let's have a look at the rest and how they match up. So the steel, robot steel. This is situationally good. In almost every situation, it is completely useless. So this is D tier. Yeah, so again, this doesn't even really benefit you over an opponent because an opponent can just use it to steal something back. It's very situational. It depends what's in your opponent's discards. Because you can't check the discards, it relies on memory of knowing what they played. In BGA, you can check the history, play history, to see that. But yeah, in most competitive games, everyone gets the camera, and that means that their discard is always empty, so it's also completely useless then. So usually D tier. Additionally, it can be A or B tier, but so you do want to get this sometimes if you know your opponent will have good cards in their discard on your next turn. But in most cases, it is trash. All right, the return from discard. Now this is basically if you have. This is a copy of your best card. Simply A tier. It's not S simply because it relies on you having already an A or S tier card for it to be A or S tier. And It's not reliably S even if you have these, because you only need one camera, and the draw 2 you almost always are cycling your whole deck through. It's only a copy of a draw 2 if you don't have the camera, basically, or in situations where you know you won't be able to redraw this, so you want to pick it up. But this is really good. So A tier in almost every situation, it is A tier card. The flip over. So this is flips over the top 3 cards of your opponent's revealed. Best standard case, your opponents will have 2 cards flipped up because they bought an advanced tech, so it is a -1 progress. The problem is that it is very often the case where they do not have anything flipped over, and if you buy this, they will know you have bought this, and they can just play around it by not buying expensive tech, basically. So this is D tier. It is, in most cases, just trash. It doesn't really help with if you have an S tier deck, so most S tier decks just use this and these two, and it's kind of useless against that. So it's pretty much useless in most situations. All right, the time travel thingy. It adds a face down portal on top of all your opponent's decks. Now, this is actually basically exactly the same as the multi-portal, except the opposite. It makes all your opponents -1 in progress, which effectively makes you a +1 in progress. This is A tier. It is actually just as good as this one. You can also make a deck with these 3 and just stall out the game forever. And then you just wait until you buy this, and eventually you'll win the game, no problem. So these 2 are equal power, basically. The only disadvantage is this does not help you if you go second and your opponent wins and you have to win on the same round. So if you're going second, this is a little bit worse than the multi-portal. So it is not ahead of the multi-portal. Multi-portal is still better. There's a second reason this could be good, though, is if you want to stall out the game. So if you know you have these 2, then and your opponent doesn't, then you actually want to get the time thing out, because the only chance your opponent has of winning is to win before your deck gets infinitely efficient because of the camera. So you just get this, you stall out the game, and your opponent can't win, and that's it. That's the end of the game. Yeah, so that's basically it. All right, next one, the lab kit. Now, this is actually not so bad. So the thing is that in progress, it on average, if you grab an A tier card, it on average progresses you 1, and an average basic technology progresses your opponent 0.5 on average, assuming all like the good techs have been taken from the pool. So this will progress you 0.5 on average. So that seems pretty shit. The reason it's good, though, is it increases the ratio in your deck of good cards faster than your opponent, because it is increasing the ratio of good cards in your deck by 0.5 on average compared to each opponent. So this is actually an engine card, and unlike the purchase reducer, this is actually an engine card, and the more you use it, the better your deck becomes compared to everyone. And there's a second kind of advantage to this, which is the tiebreaker. The tiebreaker actually matters in this game. It is very often you and your opponent win the game at the same time. And this game, each time you use this, increases the value of your deck by 1 basic tech, basically every single time you use this. So if you have anything that delays the game, and you have this, you can win. Or, well, it's really good. So this is actually going in B tier. By itself, it's shit, but if you get it early, if you get something that delays the game, it can actually be really good. So if there's nothing better, this can be pretty good. As a warning to this, though, it's also one of those situations where if you go first, this is really bad. If you go second, it's much better, because you can use it on your second turn without benefiting your opponent. So assuming your opponent found their Eternitum, and they finished the game, you can, when you use this, it doesn't benefit your opponent. So this is actually much better if you're going second. But yeah, it's still pretty good. The glasses. So similar to the search one, this kind of finds you basically whatever card you want. However, so this is effectively a copy of the best card in your deck. However, what it also does is it also rearranges the top 5 cards of your deck in any way you like. You can discard them, you can put back on top. That is incredible. I'm not putting in S tier simply because it just doesn't compare to these two. If you get, you just have, these two are just must picks. They're just, you have to pick them. It's not a have to pick, but I'm putting it top of A tier. This is, theoretically, you'd want to pick one of these before you pick up this, but once you get these two, then one of these, this just becomes a instant pick. It will basically, even though you can't reuse it, so even though it's a once per turn, which this should be because this is actually better than this card, even though it's a once per turn, you can still play around that. You can discard it with this one. You can discard it with these if you end up picking one of these. You can play around that once per turn, and it's just, the cycling is just so good. It's kind of like this but better. All right. I think that's enough said. Next, the boot. Now this is a really interesting card. This is actually pretty good. It is on average a progress of 1. So just like the gun up here, it's basically a progress of 1. Now, the only thing with this is that this can be played around quite a bit. If your opponent has the timer, if the opponent has the dimension gun, you can mess up your opponent and make it really difficult for them to have 2 revealed cards on top. Another thing is that the standard best card, which is this one, does not play with this. You actually do not want to have any of these flip over cards in your deck because they're all bad. All the cards that flip over cards in your, like flip over your portal cards, are just bad cards. So you tend to not really want them, which makes this not really good. Only for that reason it's not going in A tier. It just doesn't really play well with any of the other cards in the game. All the ones that flip stuff over are shit. All the ones that don't care about flipping stuff are good. And it's quite easy to play around. If you pick it, your opponent can counterpick something slightly worse that will counter it quite a bit. Unfortunately B tier, but it's very close to A, and it can be in many situations in A. This one, the, not sure what this is, the drone or the hunter or something. When you play this, discards one of the cards in your opponent's hand. Now, this is an minus average of whatever's in your opponent's hand. You average your opponent's deck, and it becomes a minus whatever they have. Now, assuming you're playing an average game, which makes your deck and your opponent's deck equal, that means that whatever card this would be instead of the drone would be an average card in your deck. An average card in your deck is the same value as an average card in your opponent's deck. So what this means is this is just practically, this becomes a progress of -1 in the sense that it progresses, or it reduces the progress of you and your opponent the same. So how to put it? I think I basically explained it. So it's much better than it seems. Even though it just discards 1 card, it kind of works like the timer. Now, it's not A tier because it does not actually progress you 1, but it's not C tier because discarding cards in your opponent's hand is stronger than the sum of its parts, basically. If your opponent loses, cards work together in this game. So if your opponent loses a combo that works together in their hand, which is more likely if you're discarding their hand, it can make the rest of their cards in their hand useless. And similarly to this, to the portal, if you get this combo, then this is one of the other cards that you can get to just stall out the game and you just win. So if you manage to get these two, you're effectively, if you get the portal, the time, or this, you effectively win the game because you stall out you're just stalling out your opponent, and you just have to get one of these or something similar, and you'll just win the game. So not C tier because it's practically it's better than it looks, but not A tier though, because on average it doesn't progress you one. Yeah, so B tier, pretty good though. All right, the hand. So just like all the other drawers here, this effectively is just another copy of the best card in your deck. So just like all the others, it goes straight into A tier. If there's none of these other cards on the board, well, none of these other cards, which basically means this or this. Well, actually, these two should go over here. This is just an A tier, but it's not as good as any of these. Now, yeah, if none of these cards are on the board, then you just pick this up. It's just better than everything else. It's just, as long as you have one of these in your deck, basically, it is instantly better than everything else here. So these drawers are just flat, really strong cards. Yeah. There's nothing much to say. It's just another copy of the best card in your deck. All right, now this one. So this guy is really interesting. He is in the expansion the only card which can also destroy cards in your deck. Now, unlike the camera, it's still not as good as the camera because it can only discard once per turn, and you're adding one portal card per turn to your hand anyway. So effectively, this doesn't remove the cards that you already have, which makes it impossible for you to have like just an 8-card deck which you just cycle through with these every single turn. You still need to get the camera even if you have this. But it is a little bit better than this because it increases the ratio in your deck by so much. So I'm putting this in A tier over here. It's pretty good. It's not as good as these guys though, but yeah, pretty solid. Now this thing. This is put a card from your hand back on top of your deck and then copy any card in the market. So if we do the calculations on this, it's a neg1 in hand, and then it's a copy of the best card in the market, which if there's any of these in the market, they're just gone. Usually the market is all shitty stuff. So it's a 2 cards for on average like a 0.5 progress. Even though you can choose, which means it'll be closer to a 1 progress more often than not, it's still 2 cards for a 1 progress. Rubbish. This is D tier. It's just horrible. It's just really bad. Now the giant transport. So this is discard 3 cards in your hand, progress 2. So it basically converts 3 of your cards in your hand to a 0.5 progress. Kind of just like this, but a little bit better. Instead of a 0.3 progress, it's a 0.5. Now this is going into B tier. The same reason as this. It is same reason this wasn't in D tier, because it is practically in many cases quite reliable. Even if you mess up, it's still really good. It does what it needs to do. You often do have redundant cards in your hand, so it does tend to be quite good. Now these ones, double portals. So these are all the same, so they're all going to go together. The interesting thing about these guys is that if you use them randomly, so let's say you use them, so there's one mechanic in this game where you can use a portal card when your portals, you can use one of these cards when your portal deck has the top card being face down to guess what the top card is. Now, this is a 50-50. So on average, using this card would be just in every situation would basically be a 0.5 progress. And the downside is you draw 1 less card next turn. So this effectively is using one and a half cards, because it's 50% chance you're losing 1 card. So it's using 1.5 cards. It progresses you 0.5 on almost every situation. So that is actually not so bad. It's actually a positive progress. So you actually should be using this every turn if you have a face down card and you have one of these in your hand. Mathematically, you should be using it. You get more benefit than loss. Unless, of course, you just have like the super combo in hand, then don't worry about it, or in your deck. But yeah, so it's actually good for guessing, and it will let me know if anything you disagree with, anything you think I missed, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.